The following program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's outreach coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes. It is Wednesday, March 16th, 2011, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us for our show for this next 60 minutes of news, talk, interviews, information, music, comedy, and more. But we kind of start off on a sad note with the news of the passing of 41-year-old rap superstar Nate Dogg. So we're going to tempt fate and the ASCAP and BMI or whoever licenses the stuff, and there's his voice.
Some of those collaborations were like the first time I ever got into hip-hop.
Yeah.
That G-Funk era and all that stuff.
Yes, and 41 years old is just too young. And, condolences to family and friends and fans out there of Nate Dogg. Fantastic voice has been silenced at the too young age of 41, and this show's dedicated to him and everyone else who is suffering and misses him. So, anyway, for today's show, this will be the last show before I head off to Missouri, heading off to the Missouri NORML Conference, the state conference. So there will be no NORML Show Live on Thursday or Friday. We will be playing replays during their regular slots at the NORML Network, including Hour 2 from yesterday that we're dubbing the BHO Hour. It was kind of crazy. We had a weird show yesterday, and we needed to release some steam, so we did. Also joining us here in studio, as always, is the Pirate Ganja John.
What's up, Russ?
Welcome back. We're glad to have you here. Clico, the intern's here, and joining us from our virtual studio in beautiful Grastoria, Oregon, is the lovely Cannabis Carrie.
Oh, if I call her.
If I call her first.
You forgot to call her.
Well,
wow.
that happens sometimes. This is the high technology we work with.
Yeah.
Get it? High technology. But I'm sure she'll be there any minute, any second.
She's there.
You're going to call and then you don't.
Yeah, I know. It's just like a man, right? Oh, all right. So for today's show, we've got some Irie Wednesday music, Top Cat with Pass the Chalice for Me from Grateful Dead Public Radio. We are going to talk to Dr. Mitch Earlywine at half past the hour, like we always do in our Cannabis Science segment. You can call in and get your questions answered. And moving the segment ahead from Thursday, since we won't have a show, our Southern California scene with Terry Joyce. Jeffrey Peterson, the editor of Cali Chronic X, will be here. You know that magazine. One of Charlie Sheen's goddesses was the cover girl for it, as well as visits, we hope, from Fake Gary Busey and not Matthew McConaughey.
Wow.
So that should be interesting. Some not celebrity guests on the show today. And before we get to all of that, of course, we've got our hemp headlines with Cannabis Carrie. So what's in the news today, Carrie?
Well, today we've got a ton of news about dispensaries. I just can't let it pass without us giving you more information about the Montana raids, some raids in some other medical marijuana states as well, and some good dispensary news coming out of the East Coast.
All right. We'll get to all that and more coming up right after these messages. Make sure to visit our sponsors, especially Alternative Medical Choices. They've got a new website up at altmedchoices.com. All the information you need for the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, and you don't have to be from Oregon to get your Oregon card. We're right back after this.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
In today's busy world, we're inundated by advertising for all types of pharmaceuticals that come with a laundry list of potential side effects. Shouldn't you have better medical choices? Natural alternatives to pills pushed by Big Pharma? At Alternative Medical Choices, you could choose natural, safe, and effective alternative therapies that are right for your budget without nasty side effects. Cannabis, or marijuana, has been a legal medicine in the Pacific Northwest since 1998. Our doctors will help determine your qualifications for a medical marijuana recommendation in Oregon, no matter where you live. Our massage therapists will ease your aches and stress with soothing hemp seed oil or cannabis-infused massage salves. We also offer acupuncture, Reiki, and other alternative health therapies. Call Alternative Medical Choices in Portland, Oregon at 503-288-5579 or visit our website at www.altmedchoices.com. We specialize in out-of-state recommendations. That's www.altmedchoices.com or call 503-288-5579.
NORML National Conference 2011, Denver, Colorado, April 21st through 23rd.
If I'm not a crook.
When President Nixon declared war on marijuana smokers, NORML was founded by a young lawyer named Keith Straub.
And federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
We were there when 11 states decriminalized marijuana use.
Seems like such a simple message. Just say no.
We were there as mandatory minimums were enacted and the drug czar was invented.
And I didn't like it and didn't inhale and never tried it again.
We were there for medical marijuana legalization in 15 states.
I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
And now, in our 40th year, NORML is coming of age as states begin discussing outright marijuana legalization.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Join us in Denver, Colorado, the day after 420 for our 40th annual national conference. You'll learn about marijuana law, cannabis science, and the grassroots activism necessary to end prohibition. Set in the Mile High City, America's cannabis capital. Special guests include medical marijuana pioneer and Harvard emeritus Dr. Lester Grinspoon, U.S. Congressman Jared Polis, and NORML founder Keith Straub. NORML National Conference 2011, coming of age in Denver, Colorado, April 21st through 23rd. It's the true Rocky Mountain High.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carrie.
The ongoing drama in Montana that we criminal search warrants and 4 civil seizure warrants that have been executed and culminating an 18-month multi-agency investigation. Yesterday, the U.S. Attorney for Montana, Michael W. Cotter, issued a 3-page press release defending the state's participation in the raids on medical marijuana dispensaries and patients. In the press release, it says that the authorities believe that the medical marijuana dispensaries were violating the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Tuesday's news release states, quote, because of the danger posed by Schedule I substances, the Department of Justice continues to focus its enforcement and investigative efforts in targeting large-scale drug organizations that cultivate, manufacture, distribute, or sell marijuana, unquote. Authorities have seized about $4 million in funds at banks in Bozeman, Helena, and Kalispell, all with the stamp of involvement in illegal and large-scale trafficking of marijuana. According to Cotter, anytime criminal networks violate federal laws, those involved will be prosecuted. Thousands of plants, computers, cell phones, and patients and customer lists were taken in the unprecedented statewide crackdown on medical marijuana facilities. The other bit of information that we gleaned from yesterday's press release from the state attorney's office is that no federal criminal charges or indictments have been filed against any of the individuals named in the search warrants so far. Montana voters have had a medical marijuana law on the state books since 2004, and like many of the other states that recognize medical marijuana as an option for qualifying conditions, the industry has flourished after the 2009 Holder memo that stated that the federal government would waste no more time going after medical marijuana patients that were complying with state laws. But the laws on dispensing medical marijuana is a gray area in many of the 16 states that recognize it. In Montana, much has been made about the sharp increase in patients entering the program. In September of 2009, there were only 3,921 patients registered in the program. In February of 2011, that number had topped 28,000. Today, the entire community is reeling from the raids by local law and federal officials. Some of the businesses that were raided on Monday and Tuesday had previously invited state and local law enforcement officials into their growing operations to demonstrate their compliance with state law. One dispensary owner from Billings said that he got an advance notice that his business would not be raided, but he still chose to close his doors on Monday and Tuesday to avoid any problems for staff and patients. Medical marijuana advocate Tom Daubert, the author of the 2004 voter-approved Montana Medical Marijuana Act, said that he had been working closely with law enforcement officials for the last 2 years. He gave press tours of Montana Cannabis Greenhouse many times, one of the raided facilities. He told the Billings Gazette that he hates the notion that law enforcement might have been acting deceitfully. He dubbed the recent raids from the feds as Obama scare.
Well, I got to thinking about this, and by the way, if you want to get a great recounting of these raids, listen to our replay from yesterday. We spoke with John Masterson from Montana NORML. He's been live blogging it, and that will be one of the replays that we run on Thursday and Friday during my absence in Missouri. Also, we have a new podcast that's joined the NORML network, the Hotbox podcast out of Kalispell, Montana. We just ran it today. They will replay tomorrow at 4 p.m., so check them out. They've got one of them was an eyewitness across the street from one of these things being raided. So she gives a great testimony on the podcast. Check that out tomorrow at 4 p.m. Now, with respect to defending the state actions on this, if they're talking about violations of the Federal Controlled Substance Act, that's federal law, right? So I can understand why the DEA, IRS, ICE, Homeland Security, all those agencies are there. Why the Kalispell High Drug Task Force is there, or the county sheriff is there. That's another question entirely, because those officers are charged with enforcing local and state law. It is not their job to enforce federal law. They can assist in doing so, but it is their choice to assist in doing so. Nothing mandates that they have to enforce federal law. So they are choosing. They're choosing to be paid by Montana taxpayers to raid these dispensaries, these caregivers in Montana that the people have voted for, that the people don't seem to have a problem with. And you can really get to it when you start looking at the numbers. $4 million in funds seized from these different patients and caregiver organizations. What this comes down to is politics. They realize that they did not get through their repeal of medical marijuana, and they realize that this is a rapidly growing demographic that now has the money to start fielding candidates to run against some of these people who are anti-medical marijuana. And in an economic climate like Montana and the rest of the United States are going through, where we need jobs, where we need growth industries, they realize this is an economic force to be reckoned with. Not just the $4 million, but also the number of votes. I just did the calculations from the Montana Department of Health and Human Services. They have 28,739 patients, 4,833 caregivers, and 353 physicians who with current enrollments. So if we just add up the patients and the caregivers together, we get a number of, 33,572. In a state with a population of 974,989, that works out to about 3.4% of the population who are legal medical marijuana patients or caregivers. 3.4% doesn't sound like a lot, but in a real close election, that can be a huge mobilized voting bloc. They know that we're building the money and the power, and they're doing everything they can to stop it. I was tweeting with the individuals today, and they said, because we lost Prop 19, now they think they can shut us down. No, because we lost Prop 19 and because we have so much in medical marijuana, they're terrified. And this is the death throes of prohibition. They're doing everything they can to try to stop this power from building before it reaches a groundswell and it reaches out to the majority of the American public who think marijuana should just be legal even for healthy people.
In Rhode Island, the long-awaited decision on who gets to run the 3 state dispensaries that are permitted by their medical marijuana law has finally been decided. There were 18 qualified applicants who stepped forward to try to grab one of the top 3 slots. And in the end, it went to some veterans of the medical marijuana industry. Summit Medical Compassion Center in Warwick, the Thomas C. Slater Compassion Center in Providence, and Greenleaf Compassionate Care Center in Portsmouth will be the outlets for the state's medical marijuana patients. Rhode Island is one of 4 states that specifically allows state-regulated marijuana dispensaries in their medical marijuana law. Rhode Island's law allows home cultivation as well, so patients that do not live near one of the 3 medical marijuana dispensaries will still have that option for themselves or a designated caregiver. The health department was initially scheduled to make the decision of who got to run the 3 dispensaries last summer, but rejected the entire group of applicants at that time. Dr. Seth Bach, the CEO of the Greenleaf Compassionate Care Center, said he looks forward to bringing medicine to people in Rhode Island and said he plans on opening his doors in June or early July. Greenleaf would be the smallest dispensary operation of the 3 nonprofit corporations chosen. It projects serving about 300 to 350 patients within 3 years. 350 patients, but within 3 years, they will have the capability of serving many more if necessary. The other 2 are projected in their applications to serve many more patients, with Summit projecting 1,600 patients this year and increasing to around 8,000 in 2013. Summit anticipates bringing in $24.7 million annually and having 80 employees by the 3-year time mark. Currently, there are about 3,300 patients registered into the program. One of the business owners of Summit is 10-year NBA veteran and former standout player at the University of Rhode Island, Catino Mobley. He is the sole financier of Summit and is extending the group $3.5 million to get the business up and running. He issued a statement yesterday after the announcement that said in part, quote, "I look forward to spending much more time in Rhode Island in order to see the concept of wellness being promoted and to be in a position to give back to the local community." Summit plans to open their doors in June, but will not sell medical marijuana until September.
Wow, talk about story placement, Carrie. Good job. There's 2 sides of the coin. You get the Montana raids on these dispensaries in a state with less than 1 million population, and the square miles of Montana, something like 147,000 square mile Montana. Meanwhile, the state of Rhode Island, with 2,000 square miles and more people than Montana, like 1,053,000 people in 2,000 square miles, they've got their government, not the people, not through initiative, their actual legislature coming up with regulations and legal medical marijuana dispensaries, explicitly legal under state law, not like Montana where it's not legal but it's not specific but we're not sure. No, specifically legal under state law, dispensaries with regulations. And this is just amazing to me. 2 sides of this, of the coin here, and kudos to the people in Rhode Island for making this happen.
And Montana isn't the only place where dispensaries were raided by federal drug enforcement agents this week. Yesterday, 2 West Hollywood medical marijuana dispensaries were raided. That is half of the 4 that the city has authorized to operate. West Hollywood was one of the first California cities to regulate medical marijuana sales and is often cited as a model for regulation in other Californian cities. Began at 2 p.m. and were conducted along with the Los Angeles Police Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The warrants in this case are under seal by the court, so at this time of the reporting, we don't know what triggered the raids or what was seized by police and agents. Sarah Pullen, a DEA spokesman, did confirm that the raids happened and commented only that it was an ongoing operation. The dispensaries raided were the Alternative Herbal Health Services and Zen Healing on Santa Monica Boulevard. We do Bill Kroger, the attorney for Zen Healing, who arrived half an hour after the federal agents served the warrant. He saw about 6 DEA agents inside the store and a couple of sheriff deputies guarding the outside. He said 5 or 6 employees were in handcuffs and on the ground. He reported that there were no protesters and the agents took their time going through the store. It took them about 7 hours. A hand-lettered sign was taped to the door that said, "Closed permanently." The DEA agents took the store's operator into custody, and the raids came as a shock to activists in the area since West Hollywood is known to be very diligent in their oversight of their dispensaries. The DEA has raided 5 of the then 6 dispensaries back in 2007, but has since left the stores alone since then. We will find out what triggered the raids and report to you as soon as we know.
Yeah, more of the same here. Look, the more I think about this, the more it troubles me, and I'm trying to understand the motivation of the president, of Barack Obama on this. A lot of people have commented about this in the Holder memo. Of course, the Holder memo had that glaring loophole about the clear and unambiguous compliance with state law, and I think that's, they're going to wiggle through and say, no, well, see, they were violating this little technicality of state law, whatever. No, what it is we want the federal raids to stop and to allow allow the states to continue with their regulation of medical marijuana unaffected by the federal government. We want you to keep hands off. No more technicalities, no more half-truths, no more half-promises. This is about votes, Mr. Obama, and those of us out here in the community are paying close attention to your actions, not your words. And so far, they're not matching up. You're not standing up for the patients. You said many times in the campaign in 2008 that you'd have better things for federal resources to be spent on. It's time to put your money where your mouth is, or we're going to find someone else to vote on. You can just kiss the youth vote goodbye. You can kiss the medical marijuana vote goodbye. The 55 electoral votes in California, the electoral votes in a lot of the states that elected you, and that online community that you laughed at. Take this seriously. End federal raids.
On the way over here today, I thought of something genius to say right here, and I got high and forgot. So let's take a break.
How could that possibly happen? We'll be right back after this.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support NORML Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
USVI NORML go broke down barrier. Herb is medicine to broke down barrier. Boost the economy and broke down barrier. It's helping other states broke down barrier. Cannabis for legalized to broke down barrier. Join and speak your voice broke down barrier. We gonna change the law broke down barrier. We got to educate broke down barrier. Yeah, this is Nayora, bigging up USVI NORML. Working to legalize cannabis, for the whole of the Virgin Islands.
USVI NORML is a non-profit organization working to legalize cannabis for the use by the industries and responsible adults. Do your part. Join USVI NORML. Register to vote. Pass the word. Voice your opinion. You can change the law. Contact us for more information at 340-244-9179. You can also visit our website at www.usvinorml.org.
High in the Rockies, for the first time ever, High Times is hosting the Medical Cannabis Cup in the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Come to the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup. There'll be cultivation seminars with High Times editors Danny Danko and Nico Escondido, plus other experts and cannabis celebrities. Attend activism seminars with leaders of the medical marijuana movement, including advice on how to start your own canna business. Meet industry leaders in medical cultivation, hydroponics, smokable glassware, hemp products, dispensary supply, cannabis accessories, and more. Plus, medical cannabis cups will be awarded to the best indica, sativas, concentrates, and edibles entered by legally operating medical marijuana dispensaries and growing collectives. And don't forget Saturday night when the Medical Cannabis Cup will host the extravaganza with surprise musical guests. The High Times Medical Cannabis Cup, April 2nd and 3rd, 2011 at Exto in Denver, Colorado. Visit medcancup.com for details. Be part of the growing cannabis industry. Come to the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup in Denver.
It's time for your Daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420-friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Our PodSafe music is donated by freedom-loving musicians who support our goal of ending adult marijuana prohibition. Today we get tunes for Irie Wednesday, our celebration of that mellow vibe we find in the best of reggae, ska, calypso, and Latin music. Brought to you by Grateful Dread Public Radio, Summit, New Jersey's progressive peace station at gdreadradio.net. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on NORML Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now, here's some great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
Howdy, gang. Grateful Dread broadcasting from the studios of Grateful Dread Public Radio in Summit, New Jersey. For today's Irie Wednesday Toker Tune, we bring you music from a multi-talented British-Jamaican bloke named Anthony Codrington. Now, if you're into the English sound system scene, you'll know Tony better as DJ Top Cat. Codrington hails from working-class Manchester. As a teenager, young Tony discovered a talent for rocking the mic while visiting cousins in Jamaica. He took his new passion home to the UK, where he started working at sound systems including Sledgehammer and Viking. By 1989, he was installed at Sir Coxsone Sound, a British sound system named for legendary reggae producer Coxsone Dodd. Also known as Outernational, the system was known as a trendsetter. It was here that young Brits first heard dub, raga, dancehall, and jungle music. Top Cat was in the middle of it all, with his mic partner, Tenorfly. The Cat found success here and enjoyed a number of 80s raga and dancehall hits, such as Love Me Cess. By the 1990s, via his own 9 Lives records, he took the jungle world by storm, releasing popular remixes of his own hits along with new songs. Top Cat is still out there today, entertaining the faithful with his own twist on dancehall and raga jungle. They don't call him the champion DJ for nothing. He literally wrote the book on it. You can order his book, How to MC, from his website, and you can find his music, including duets with Tenorfly, General Levy, and Poison Chang, on iTunes. And today, we present a classic Codrington sound clash that features a solid reggae bottom, along with wicked jungle breakbeats, rude boy swagger, and big ups for the herb. You'll dig this. The track comes from the Osra Music compilation disc, Skokian in a African Beat. It's the champion DJ, Top Cat. And pass the chalice for me.
Yeah. Tell him, sir. The chalice, man. Acha. Now this one going out to one ganja smoker. Can't deny tell and say go blaze a child will smoke the ganja make your wife a fit and strong. And this one is the very bad sense for sure. But tell them your first boss the chalice for me. Make me take a lick up on this good sense. Make we legalize the album, make we blaze a coche. All ganja smoker, yes, and Babylon. Come follow me. Sense that's the way we like on the chronic. Yes, we could have lick it down and sense it later. And that's the way we smoke. But when you lick the chalice, you feel mine, you're not too sense it later. That's the way we like on the chronic. Can't deny me off the bun ganja by sense it later. It have to legalize all ganja smoker. Let me say, all of the man we want it legalized now. Yo, push up your one and shout yo. All the woman them will smoke up the grain. Sin, let me hear the whole on a scream. Cause we have born herb from the age of 13. Put up it in a vista that a regular routine. I lick it in a chalice with my virgin name. All the Parmesan stem fish can't intervene. So when it comes to ganja, yes, I must find the claim. Even if it is we have to use go between. We will cross plenty mother, we will cross plenty feeler. Just to find the good green, I'm a sensibility. That's the way we like on the chronic. Yes, we could have lick it down like sensibility. And that's the way we smoke. And when you lick the chalice, you'll be mine, you're not drunk sensibility. That's the way we like on the chronic. Can't deny me off the bun ganja pipe sensibility. It's all legalized. All ganja smoker. We tell them we used to stand up on the front, stand up on the corner. Juggling 10, juggling 8, some bet juggle quarter. Reflex it, traffic, catch customer. And you want to watch your back because I've been farmer. No mistake for me in the life, I've done that it's a Tiana. But me not forget the line of me still a hustler. Juggling ganja anyway music, that is how we prosper. So make them try and stop this one, yeah. And I say, Sensibila. That's the way we like on the chronic. Yes, I could have lick it down nice Sensibila. And that's the way we smoke. And when you lick the chalice, you feel mine, you're not drunk Sensibila. That's the way we like on the chronic. Can't deny me off the bun ganja by Sensibila. It have to legalize all ganja smoker. Let me tell them, we're Sensibila coming up, so let me digest my food. When me smoke the sense of me in a gun mood. And when me in the pencil sense, it help the pain suit. When me hold up on me my sense, make me go on road. And when me listen to music, music and me walk catch the groove. Spoken sense to me, like help me find the right move. So nobody turn up a nose and send me crowd. You're broad. Ganja is your brain food.
You want a copy of that song for your iPod? Check out the Daily Toker Tunes at the Stash blog by surfing to stash.normal.org and choosing Media, and then Toker Tunes from the main menu.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
Yo, what's good? This is Be Real of Cypress Hill chilling on Normal Show Live. Legalize it.
This is Normal Show Live.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years. They've got mandatory sentences, and these judges just say, they throw up their hands and say, there's nothing we can do with mandatory sentences. We've got to take a look at what we're considering crimes.
When the Reverend Pat Robertson from television's The 700 Club
criminalizing marijuana, criminalizing the possession of a few ounces of pot and that kind of thing, I mean, it's just
makes more sense on the marijuana issue than the president, the Congress, and the Supreme Court.
It's costing us a fortune, and it's ruining young people. The young people go into prisons, they come out, they go in as youths, and they come out as hardened criminals, and that's not a good thing.
You know we're winning.
It's time for Normal Show Live's Cannabis Science with Dr. Mitch Earlywine. Dr. Earlywine is a professor of psychology at the State University of New York in Albany and the author of Understanding Marijuana. Now here's your dose of cannabis science.
Well, hello, Dr. Mitch, and happy Wednesday to you.
Happy Wednesday to you.
I've got, top of the line breaking cannabis study news that I wanted to get your opinion on. I don't know if you got to see it, but it came out of South Africa this week. The headline that I got was Cannabis Use Predicts Shorter Duration of Untreated Psychosis and Lower Levels of Negative Symptoms in First Episode Psychosis. Did you get a chance to see that study?
I just got the email from Paul.
Yeah.
At least the inhaled cannabis one on brain tumors one looks very compelling. I was intrigued by this and need to take a closer look. But we have seen cannabinoids, THC included, decrease tumor growth in the petri dishes. So this isn't completely impossible. And I definitely want to get a good look at that psychosis thing because there's some new things coming out in psychiatry research that actually cites my work sort of incorrectly, suggesting, marijuana really does increase schizotypy, and so I'm really fuming about that, and the steam's coming out of my ears.
Yeah, that's no good. Okay, so we'll hold off on that one until next week, the South African one, find out what we can find from that. But on preliminary, just looking at the abstract, it kind of, if this holds true, it sounds like the opposite of what they're always trying to say or prove with these correlations of cannabis and psychosis, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and that's why I really want to take a close look before I chime in.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about how in South Africa maybe folks are different about their willingness to confess to using cannabis as well as about using hard drugs, and so maybe that's part of why the results are different.
Yeah, and we have a South African NORML chapter that I've just been corresponding with. We interviewed one of their representatives. They were looking for a missing activist. He'd been missing under mysterious circumstances, and he tells me of the Dagga culture, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of how they use cannabis down there is also quite a different situation. That how does that translate then when we're talking about these studies that we get from other countries? I often hear when we make the point about the Netherlands or Portugal, one of the retorts that I'll get from our opponents is, well, their culture is different, which I always kind of take as a coded racism. But what does culture affect people's use of cannabis and doing these scientific studies?
As it turns out, the symptoms of some of these schizotypy scales often are culturally bad at, transporting from, say, the United States to other areas. So if you're around a group of folks who, for example, are polytheists, who believe in multiple deities, which is common in some of the Caribbean and African cultures, they may end up looking more schizotypal than, say, an American sample, simply because they have different religious beliefs. So we want to keep that kind of thing in mind when we're sort of transporting our scales into different areas for doing this kind of research.
All right. And let's see here. We've got some questions coming in from our chat room. I want to remind folks that we take live questions here in our Cannabis Science segment. You can call in at 971-533-7111 or just get in on the chat room. You got to have a Stick'em account to do so. But here we go.
Russ, if I could just say a word about Dr. Marlat's death.
Yes, please.
We lost a real great supporter here. Alan Marlat died on Tuesday. He's the guy who wrote the foreword to my book, Understanding Marijuana. I purposely didn't write anything to read because I thought I'd end up bursting into tears. But he was really a champion of harm reduction. He promoted these non-confrontational therapies for drug problems back in the day when, to go to drug therapy and these Synanon guys would scream at you and stuff like that and tell you were in denial. He really battled that kind of stuff. And he also did some splendid work on placebo administration. I just really wanted to acknowledge him and just let everybody know to, do the Scythian funeral rites in his honor tonight.
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right. And of course, we want to encourage people to pick up a copy of Understanding Marijuana. They can read that forward. And of course, everything contained in the book is stuff that people should know. So please pick that up at Amazon or wherever you can find Understanding Marijuana by Dr. Mitch Earlywine. Let's go to some questions here. Our first one comes from Spiky Pando. Interesting. Who asks, in regard to THC testing, how does the absorption of THC in fat cells differ in that of THC present in the bloodstream?
Essentially, because THC is stored in fat cells, that's why it takes so long to get it out of your system for a drug test. So it puts us in this oddball predicament where folks who are abusing cocaine or stimulants can often use that drug and 3, 4, 5 days later test negative for it, but because THC is stored in fat cells, it may take 30 days to get it out of the system. Obviously, this is an oddball kind of bias against cannabis users, and I'm hoping that, someday this just won't be an issue.
Okay. We have a compliment coming from Just Say No, who wanted to thank you for being so quick to reply to your emails at 420research.com.
Always happy to help, and anybody who has questions, just get them along. I do my best on them. Occasionally I miss one, but I'll get to you sooner or later.
Okay. A question now from Canadude, who asks, is there any research out there showing cannabinoid ratios in the leaves of cannabis versus the bud in cannabis?
Generally, THC concentrations in leaves are relatively low. And so it's hard to even take the ratio very seriously. Unfortunately, we don't have published data comparing those because, in fact, the knowledge about CBD has not been a big deal until the last couple of years, so nobody's compared across the plant. But generally, individual strains will mimic. The leaf will have a comparable ratio as the bud, but it's markedly lower on both, so it's not going to be something that could be particularly helpful.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I've heard people say, when they're doing their trimming that, okay, here's the buds, and they'll have this shake and this leaf that we'll keep for the CBD, but are you saying that really it's less THC, but it's also less CBD, so you're not really benefiting by choosing one over the other?
At least from what's been published. If folks have counter data, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
But I think this notion that there's more CBD in the leaves is partly an expectation. Back in the 90s, people thought the leaves were more sedating, and then I think they thought that was some kind of CBD effect. But nobody ever actually tested those leaves.
Yeah, and that'd be something worth testing right now, because I know that's something that is commonly held in the community. Is that something you'd heard before, John, too, as far as leaves versus bud?
Oh yeah, I never thought it was true though. Whenever I trim, I always throw away shade leaf. I mean, the trim that comes off the shake, the little leaves where you can actually physically see the trichromes. I've always used that, but I never really believed it. And I've had stuff made with leaf before, and it just doesn't do it for me.
We'll have to. Well, yeah, that'd be interesting. Something else that needs to be studied. Okay, let's get a question here from BH420, who wants to know if the honey oil, butane hash oil made from butane extraction methods, truly causes neurotoxins to be released when it is smoked if it is not made properly. And a follow-up, are there any other types of extracts, such as isopropyl extracts, which may be a good potential instead?
The clincher is that if the process doesn't really run to completion, then you are going to have remnants of whatever that solvent is. And, you've got some experienced extractors right here in the chat room who might chime in on this. But generally the alcohol ones are favored in part because there's an opportunity for letting the isopropyl alcohol essentially evaporate off relatively easily. With butane, that process, as you can imagine, is a little potentially more dangerous, and it's less clear that you've actually run the process all the way to its end. Now, if it really has run to its end, this shouldn't be an issue, but you really have to know what you're doing or really trust the person who's doing it for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely something that you don't just take up on a lark.
Really. I mean, if you guys, I read a lot about it, and I had lots of people show me how to do it before I ever did it on my own. I would never recommend someone just try it, because you're gonna leave a lot of butane in the first time you make it, and it's not gonna turn out good, and it probably is gonna be bad for you. And I recommend, if you're gonna try something, try the alcohol method. It's just as flammable, but a little easier to manage.
Yeah, and when we're talking about these, flammable and explosive gases, of course, you can't be doing it inside. You got pilot lights on your water heater or your stove or whatever. You can't do it inside. There's got to be ventilation. There's just so much involved with it. Leave it to the experts at this point. All right, let's move on to another question here. Again, we're taking questions in the chat room, or you can call in at 971-533-7111. Okay, so we have an anonymous question coming in asking, can marijuana cause you to have panic attacks? I experience it occasionally, even with the same bud. Oh, we may have lost Dr. Mitch on the line there, perhaps. Are you still there, Dr. Mitch?
Let's give him a redial.
Okay, we'll do a redial here and see if we can get back in touch with Dr. Mitch Earlywine. Something's happening with the call here, and Skype can be this way sometimes. We'll try the call back again. Sorry for the delay, folks, listening on the podcast. This is what happens when you do a live show sometimes. You're at the mercy of technology. All right. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to connect immediately, so we'll just move on, and we'll try to connect to our next guest. Coming up next on the show, Terry Joyce with Jeffrey Peterson from Cali Chronic X are joining us. Now, that magazine sounds familiar from the headlines. You'll know that Charlie Sheen, one of his goddesses, Natty, is a cover girl on Cali Chronic X and a friend of Jeff Peterson. So we'll get more information on Charlie Sheen and the Goddesses, and plus a visit from, I understand, some fake celebrities. So it should be fun. So stay tuned. It's NORML Show Live. We'll be right back after this.
It's tough talking to kids about marijuana, especially if you might be a parent who dabbled a time or two in your youth. So to help you out, get your copy of Dr. Mitch Earlywine's latest book, A Parent's Guide to Marijuana. Dr. Earlywine is an associate professor of psychology at the State University of New York at Albany and an expert on the studies concerning marijuana, its effect on health and society, and the methodology behind the statistics. He is a frequent guest here on our daily audio stash. Dr. Earlywine lays it all out without the propaganda and scare tactics that parents know won't work with teenagers. He presents a rational understanding of cannabis, what it is and what it isn't, and why kids shouldn't be using marijuana. You can order today through Amazon.com or check our links at our blog, stash.normal.org.
As As High Times Senior Cultivation Editor, I'm often called into the field and asked to sample or even identify exotic strains of marijuana in their natural habitat. Now, for the first time, I've compiled more than 120 of my favorite strains into this single field guide designed to fit into your pocket as you travel the world in search of your favorite plant. From a friend's closet grow room to the wilds of Northern California, this single guide covers all of today's best-known strains, plus heirlooms and throwbacks, including High Times quality photos and information on each variety's genetic heritage and growing characteristics, plus my personal notes on aroma, flavor, and potency. So this is Danny Danko, author of the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains, wishing you good times and great ganja.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stay.
Weed.
That's Hooey Valley, hooey-ha.
Weed.
Where any office boy or young mechanic.
Now it's time for a report from the epicenter of American cannabis culture with our Southern California correspondent. You know her from ComedyNation.com and her appearance as a finalist on Season 1 of NBC's Last Comic Standing. It's our friend, cannabis comedian and marijuana activist, the lovely and talented Terry Joyce.
Hi, Terry Joyce. We're so glad to be talking to you. We've been going through technical difficulty hell. Thanks for joining us.
Oh my God, I'm glad to make it. I'm actually on the road right now. On the way, I was in Spokane, Washington, and on the way to Lewiston, Idaho.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I'm en route.
I've been to Lewiston many, many times.
Are you there?
Yeah, I've been to Lewiston many, many times. It's a very interesting spot in Idaho because you've got rednecks, cowboys, loggers, and sailors all in the same location. Because Lewiston's a port. It's the farthest inland port off the Pacific coast.
Well, I should have a good time. Maybe I'll hook up with somebody tonight. There's sailors there.
That's your crowd. That's your people, right?
I might get lucky. One thing I wanted to let everybody know is in Spokane, I was treated so well there by Infusing Glass. They custom made me a Sherlock pipe, which I actually tweeted on my Twitter and put it on the Facebook with my name and everything. And they're just really great. They can custom make pipes for you.
Oh, that's so cool. Glad to hear it. Hey, and I also wanted to thank you so much and the folks at NewDissidentRadio.com for allowing us to replay the hour of the Hollywood Hemptress Hour, your podcast. We listened to it the other day with Craig Rubin and with Lori Buckley. It was great. Glad to have you on the network.
Oh, you know what? Thank you. And thank you for having me on the network. And you know what? As we're speaking about it, the episode or the segment that we taped a while ago is going to air today on Hollywood Hemptress Hour of you being on the show.
Oh.
I'm really excited for that to be out there. Yeah. So that's going to happen today at between 5 and 6 on New Dissident Radio as well. And then, of course, it's going to replay on the NORML Live show, too. So
there you go.
I'm really glad to be hooked up with you guys.
Yeah, you can hear Terry's you can hear the Lori Buckley, Craig Rubin show today at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and then you say 5 p.m. right after that, and go to New Dissident Radio and hear your new show?
Yeah, it will be us and Bobby Jeanette, singer-songwriter Bobby Jeanette, who also did the theme song for the show, and Comedy philosopher Evan Dagger, and we're going to be discussing the Declaration of Independence and unalienable rights, and how.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And of course, we would normally be doing this segment tomorrow, but I'll be flying to Columbia, Missouri tomorrow. So I do thank you for coming in here a day early. And as always, in the Southern California scene, even though you're up near the Idaho border there, when you're talking the Southern California scene, you've always got great guests from Southern California. So tell us who we got today.
I do. I'm really excited. Of course, Jeffrey Peterson and I have, started out doing the Dope Show together 5 years ago. And he started his own magazine called California XXX. And interestingly enough, Charlie Sheen saw one of the pinup goddesses, marijuana goddesses, in the magazine, and that's currently who he's dating right now. So there's definitely a connection between California X and what's happening with Charlie Sheen. So I wanted to bring Jeffrey Peterson on the show to give us his take on everything that's happening with California XXX and Charlie Sheen. Welcome, Jeffrey Peterson.
Jeffrey Peterson, my man.
Hey.
You're back and better
What's
than ever.
happening, guys? Man, I feel like I'm at a Grateful Dead concert. The sounds are bouncing all over the place. I'm having flashbacks. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, or as we like to call it, a Wednesday, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you know, Calitronic X has gotten a lot of play lately. Our magazine, right now, we can definitely consider ourselves the most talked about cannabis magazine on the planet. And with our cover girl, Natalie Kenley, being on our 10th and 14th issue, with all the publicity she's got, it makes her the most famous cannabis model in history.
Yeah, I would say this is the breakthrough moment where we actually the term cannabis model is now hitting the mainstream. You know, that this is an amazing moment.
It is. It really is, and I'm glad you pointed that out because really, you know, Middle America, the red states, had no idea that someone could be a marijuana model, a pot model. And you mean they model with pot? What the hell is that all about? You know, they had no idea.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I kept seeing that cover popping up on like Extra and Entertainment Tonight and these different shows that are on in the background while I'm working, and I was just like, oh, good, man, more hits for Jeffrey Peterson. Like Jeffrey Peterson needs more hits, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, I definitely do hits of all kinds.
Yeah,
you know, I'll take LSD hits of pot. I'll take hits on my website. I don't mind any one of them, but just don't hit me. Just don't punch me. Okay?
Yeah, no hits to the brain.
That's right. But the thing is, I think the bigger picture is, and someone like Terry's been part of our magazine in many ways, I think the bigger picture is we're making a statement for the fringe culture in the cannabis movement. And the thing is, we count too. The pot smokers that like porn, the pot smokers that are into tattoos, the people that are into the alternative lifestyle, whatever it is, extreme sports. We feel like we're the voice for that group of people, and finally, we're cutting through.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
I'm glad you bring that up too, because this is something I confront all the time with people that come to me and they say, well, why can't all the orgs work together? How come there's so many magazines? How come there's so many groups? I'm like, because there's so many different types of people, man. I mean, there's one group don't work for you, great, go work with this other group. One magazine doesn't fit your lifestyle, the other one does, great, read that, that's fine. As long as you're on my side for ending prohibition, I don't care.
Exactly, and the thing is, we got the nods from the guys that count. Jack Hare and Eddie Left, they love our magazine. They loved our magazine, and Jack was, watching Jack look at the pictures of the pretty girls in the magazine, and then turn to me and go, "Oh, she's hot. I like her." That was, this was what got these guys into it in the first place, and I've been told by, Jack and guys like Dennis Fox, who co-wrote Grass with Jack, that these guys, they started out by thinking up some really good ideas of how to legalize pot, but at the same time getting their girlfriends to get in a bikini next to a pot plant.
Yeah. The more voices, the better, and more communities that are representative. That's fantastic. I think it's a great thing. And yeah, go ahead, Terry.
I do have one question, though. I have one question. So
Sure.
Do you feel? I mean, I totally support everybody because marijuana is so multifaceted that again, everybody hears different things in different ways. But do you feel that the media uses this particular image to the disadvantage of the movement overall?
Not at all. Not at all. And I think we in the fringe are getting a little sick and tired of being told we don't belong. I mean, it's like we've represented. Well, let's not forget the people that started the cannabis movement. Essentially, were the outcasts. They were the beatniks, the hippies. Okay, and it wasn't until somebody decided, really, someone's going to have to wear a suit and tie in this group in order to represent us. Did we change that path?
Yeah.
So to ask us to stay outside and be quiet and not embarrass anybody while they go and handle the business of cannabis is bullshit. And I'm not going to be part of that. I've been using cannabis in my life for most of my life. A lot of people that I represent feel that there's finally a voice for them, and that's one of the things I've said to a lot of people. Don't forget the porn stars that we have in our magazine, they're medical patients too.
Yeah. And you know, I want to interject on that too. If you look back to the founding of my own organization, NORML, a pornographer and a smuggler were, you know, large contributors, you know, Hugh Hefner and Tom Forsad. You know, let's just break it out. And this comes from a time when the only people who were standing up for our freedom were the fringe. Everybody else was like, oh man, I got a job, I can't risk that. But no, the brave people were the ones with the tattoos and the piercings and the long hair.
Exactly. And from a pop culture standpoint, guys, you know, look at it this way. You know, magazines like Sports Illustrated or the Hot Rod magazines or the Easy Rider magazine, after a while, the motorcycle or the football player wasn't enough to sell the magazine. They had to put a hot girl with a bikini on the cover. And that's where we're coming from. Our culture also deserves that kind of attention. We just want to lift up the beautiful women within our cannabis culture and show, hey, we got hot chicks too.
Right on. Well, Cali Chronic X is the magazine. Jeffrey Peterson is the editor. Check them out. And by the way, you know, speaking of voices in the community, I know, Jeffrey, you're always hanging with the elite Hollywood celebrities out there. There's always somebody hanging out at your pad that we get an interesting perspective from. Last time we talked to you, fake Gary Busey was hanging out, and he talked about being an intergalactic multidimensional spirit force searching for a place to nest. Is there anybody else hanging out at the pad that maybe you might get on the phone with us?
Oh, dude, you can't believe this. I mean, just a few minutes ago, straight from Malibu, my homeboy Matthew McConaughey showed up.
Fake Matthew McConaughey is here.
McConaughey's here.
Oh, well, let's talk to fake Matthew McConaughey.
Oddly enough, he's got his shirt off.
Oh, of course.
He's got his shirt off. Let me get, hey, Matthew, come here, dude. They want to talk to you. Hey, what's up, dude? I'm Tiger Nuts. How you guys doing?
Fake Matthew McConaughey, how are you doing, sir? Nice to have you on the show.
Oh, man. I am just kicking ass, dude, daily. You know what I mean? JK, just keep living, man. That's my philosophy.
So are you indeed shirtless or playing bongos or anything like that at the moment?
Well, I'm hanging out with Jeffrey, and I'm shirtless, and it's kind of making me a little uncomfortable. That's cool, man, because we're getting high.
Well, of course
I mean, you know what I like about Jeffrey? He's cool, man. He's not an ass clown in a green room. You know, he's a rock star.
Rock star, yeah.
And he speaks his mind, man, just like my buddy Charlie Sheen.
Well, yeah, there's that too, and you know, you've been in a lot of.
You know what I mean? And when you do speak your mind, you stick your neck out on a limb, and sometimes it gets chopped, but that's all right, man.
Yeah,
that's all right, because we just keep living, right?
That's right. And you know, you're well known for some of your stoner movie performances, of course, from Dazed and Confused. Tell me, is there more of those performances coming out? Does that reflect the Matthew McConaughey lifestyle, fake Matthew McConaughey?
I'm sorry, brother. You broke up. What do you have? One more time.
Oh, I'm just saying you're in a lot of movies where you have that, you portray the stoner lifestyle, like Dazed and Confused. Is that a daily thing for fake Matthew McConaughey? Is that accurate?
Oh yeah, man. It's a genuine article, man. Just like my movie Surfer Dude.
Yeah.
As I say in the commentary, man, we smoked real weed, okay? Because I am not going to be an imposter for anybody. You know what I mean?
That's fantastic.
Because I'll tell you what, it's important that we keep it real, and that's why I want y'all to go see my new movie, Lincoln Lawyer.
No, getting the plug in there
you
too.
You know what? I'll be real, man. I could use a few ducats so I can get some more weed.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, fake Matthew McConaughey, for joining us. If you can get Jeffrey back on the line, we'd appreciate it, and you're welcome to stop in anytime.
I will, man. Hey, Jeffrey, come here, dude. And hand me that pipe, dude. I want to take a hit. Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon, man.
Thank you, fake Matthew McConaughey. Thank you.
Just keep living and see my movie Lincoln Lawyer.
Once again with the plug.
Dude. There he goes again, man.
That
guy, he's a madman. He came over and we were not playing bongos, but we were hitting the bong.
I'll bet. And I guess fake Gary Busey's busy with that Celebrity Apprentice thing now. We'll have to get him on sometime to talk about that.
He's gotten in quite a beef with Meatloaf.
I saw. Yeah, what was that all about?
You know what? I think it may have to do with it's a crazy off.
Yeah.
Who's really crazier than the other guy? But Gary Busey's got some strong armor because did you see Meatloaf's breasts in Fight Club? Come on, right there. You got
There you go. Well, Jeffrey, if you could put your feelers out through your great celebrity connections and get Gary Busey sometime, we'll talk to him about the whole Celebrity Apprentice thing. It'd be great to have him on again.
Hey, you guys, just to let you know, my buddy Ice-T's been wanting to hang out with me, so we're probably going to regroup too. So,
all right, we'll get Ice-T on the show. That'll be a good one too. We can talk about that SUV, SVU, whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can't not mention his wife, Coco, who's like one of the hottest women in the world.
There you go, Coco. All that and a bag of chips. Terry Joyce.
Terry, I love you. I have a great time out on the road.
Thank you. Love you guys too.
Yeah, and
Terry will be joining me for HempCon LA at the LA Convention Center, April 1st through the 3rd. So.
Oh, cool. Excellent. All right. Well, you guys have a good time there. And Terry, you're in Lewiston. Are you doing a show tonight? Is that it?
Yes, I am. I'm doing a show in Lewiston, Idaho at the Red Lion.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Well, check her out and check the replay of Terry Joyce's Hollywood Hemptress Hour from last week at 4 p.m. today on the Normal Network. At 5 p.m., switch over to newdissidentradio.com and catch the new Hollywood Hemptress Hour featuring yours truly, Radical Russ. For Ganja John and Cannabis Carrie and Kaliko the Intern, I'm Radical Russ for the Normal Foundation. We'll talk to you next week, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Take it out one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!